Welcome to CyberBuzz Radio. My name is Crimson Clad. It is a beautiful, gorgeous, super sunny day all around the world. And I know that for most people, they want to be outside and enjoying it. So today is going to be a super chill stream for those of you who I can see that are in some of the streaming platforms and maybe who are listening on the radio. No big deal. So, my name is Crimson Clad, and this is CyberBuzz Radio, and every Saturday around this time, I hang out and we listen to synthwave music together, and we talk about, like, weird, crazy stuff that is happening around blockchain space, crypto space, and certainly around the Hive blockchain, particularly, as that's where this show was born, but also just oot and aboot around the world. And often this show has a very sort of cyberpunk-esque dystopian aesthetic, which is maybe par for the course or comes with the territory, whatever the case may be. So yeah, you know, if you have been hanging out with me for the last few weeks and been hopefully enjoying that, we've been talking a lot about AI. We've been talking a lot about DALL-E and generative adversarial networks and, you know, all the stuff that goes along with that. Because, of course, if you've been seeing those little 9x9 grids of, like, the most ridiculous stuff you could imagine, you will have seen some of these DALL-E viral images. And I mean, you know, it's not only DALL-E. I think it's been renamed Crayon. But hey, Mariano. So the reality is yeah, we've been kind of stuck in an AI rut for a few weeks. But this week I thought we'd kind of do a more synth forward, music forward episode, because I know we're hitting that point where summer is here for some of you, like Mariano. And people below the equator, yeah, okay, winter. But, you know, for the bulk of us up here in, you know, North America and wherever you else might be watching, summer is coming and it's hot and the weather is finally picking up. And definitely here in Vancouver, like, we're in a heat dome, so it's like 28 degrees outside right now and getting hotter. I know for a fact that for the next little bit, these summer days, it will be a little harder to wrangle people in here. And no big deal. That's why we have replay episodes. And that's why, you know, the stuff we talk about always becomes available again in show notes and posts and whatnot. So, yes, totally music forward day, because on days where we're not chatting as much, you know, in text or around the platform, then just doing the radio thing and turning you on to some great synthwave music is the point. I do have a couple of things that I want to talk about today, and they do sort of seg in from some of the topics that we've been exploring a lot the last couple weeks. And so as I was mentioning, you know, generative adversarial networks, I think we're all sick of those, or at least talking about them. But if you were here previously, we were talking a little bit about, as funny as it is, and maybe as useful as some of these things are, one of the things that we have to remember is that every single time we attempt to solve a problem using technology, we often create new problems, right? That is a thing that humans do, not just with obviously the internet and digital technology in general, but it's just a human thing. We try to solve one problem, we inevitably create another problem for ourselves, and our lives are just this constant series of improvements because we are always striving to make things better. And so, you know, I have some thoughts on this, and I have some examples, and I have some stuff I want to show you. But, you know, the adversarial networks are obviously one example of that. And especially since we talked a lot about these sort of facial recognition things, you know, apps, filters, and, you know, being able to generate an image of someone on the fly using this network that sort of understands roughly what a person is supposed to look like and can put one together. You know, any time that these networks understand enough about a subject to be able to produce it at will, random, spontaneously, or, you know, when asked, the problem becomes they obviously have an understanding. And with an understanding comes an inference. And that is truly problematic, right? We know as humans that we often project, or we often think a lot about other people, their thoughts and their feelings, and we sometimes make some assumptions. Well, what we're basically doing is asking computers to do that for us. Knowing how well it goes when we, as emotional and irrational meatbags, do it, we have to wonder, will it go better if a cold and calculating computer does it. I'm not 1,000% sure about that, but who cares? So we'll talk a bit about that kind of thing. I will finish up maybe putting on half a face. Greaseball me is just kicking it here in my schlubby cool clothes because she's hot today. And I've got a lot of good music for you. So if you guys are cool with that, then that's what we will do. We will have a chill stream. And, we'll see people if we see them here in the Discord. And if we don't, we won't. I can see that Black Man came into PalNet and actually asked people to go to another show. So this is a thing that I have recently found out is that, it's always going to be hard to rustle up a time to do a live stream, right? And one of the most amazing things about the blockchain is that there are many, many communities. So if you happen to be involved in the Hive blockchain and you're looking for a great place to go to chat with people or talk a little bit more about, less about learning about Hive or discussing the philosophy and more about just hanging out with other creators around you, then maybe you want to skip my show and you want to head over to the ECNC Discord and hop in on that one. But if you do want to stay, I am going to entertain you with some good music, hopefully some thoughtful chatter, and then whoever is here, I will spend some time with you, and we will move into what is the beginning of hopefully a really exciting summer. We'll play it by ear. So with that being said, to the start of the show, I actually did play a Jordan F song. And so now I am going to quickly kind of ease us into everything, playing a totally appropriate track, given that many people are probably sleeping in this wonderful, lazy Saturday. I'm going to play a new Laser Punk, because if we're going to start off the day dystopian, and we're going to start off the day with like everybody sort of just being away from their computers or whatever they may be, I'm going to play you a track that was just released. I love Laser Punk because he does really sort of aggressive synths. He does a lot of remixes that are often like, I was going to say masculine, but that's not the right term. And we're not gendering this. I don't want to get into that today. But yeah, like really awesome, aggressive, like hard-edged kind of dystopian sounding synthwave, given that a lot of the bands that I play for you are really fun and city pop and whatever. We have to have all sides of it. So, I'm going to play you a track called Do Not Disturb while I get the rest of the overlay set up, while I do whatever it is I'm going to do to start the show. And hopefully you're going to enjoy it. So we'll get some dancing going on today regardless on CyberBuzz. I got to fix this.
Text me, don't call. to me. Don't.
All right, there we go. Hey, Death Trap has given us a shout out. Hey, man. And yeah, there's some good bass in that. And that's always sort of like the ominous dystopian aspect of things, right? So yeah, hey, welcome. My name is Crimson Clad, and I'm just hanging out here by my lonesome today, doing a live stream and celebrating a little bit about how ridiculous the world sometimes can be, and also talking a little bit about some stuff that's going on around Hive. You know, all of the regular tech talk, dystopian ideology, and all the rest. So, you know, yeah, we've been talking a lot these last couple weeks about generative adversarial networks and sort of some of the problems that are coming around using them, and, you know, some of the scary aspects of them, and yeah, some of the good too. I mean, it often happens that topics that we talk about on this show, because, you know, when we think of these sort of Blade Runner, Akira, cyberpunk, neon noir kind of stories that we've always explored, they're often kind of scary. Holy shit, Sanguine Haze, how are you? Welcome to summer. I bet it's absolutely balls god awful hot where you are. It's great to see you. Awesome. So we're just talking a little bit about, you know, some of the problems that we create when we create useful technology. You know, blockchain is certainly one of these things. But since we have been sort of on a kick with these networks and cloud learning, machine learning, deep AI, all of that stuff, I thought I would continue this a little bit today, because we've talked a lot about sort of the ability for networks to produce maybe speech or text. And then, of course, we've been having a lot of fun with the AI creator that will take a text prompt and interpret it as imagery. And we talked a little bit about that. So this week, I saw something that kind of continues taking some of these aspects and makes them even more terrifying. So I thought I'd bring this up because, to me, it really is. Oh, it's been raining for you for 2 weeks. Yeah, it's true. Lousy January, lousy Smarch weather. I also heard Alberta was still getting snowed on. Canada, get your shit together. I live on the West Coast. It is always the just right bowl of porridge over here. Although, yes, today it's very hot. I'm very hot. But I'm also a redhead, and I can't handle temperature fluctuations. So your mileage may vary. So the thing I want to talk to you guys about is something that I saw this week in a press conference that came up. Now, I mean, everybody always kind of leans on Black Mirror, right? We've talked about it to death on some of these shows, but where sort of the kids my age or like our parents' age or whatever, depending on your interests, cyberpunk, neo-noir, the idea of that sort of dystopian tech future, or maybe utopian tech future, but a tech-centric future nonetheless, always seems to come back to, yeah, Blade Runner, that era. Whether you were a novel reader and you started with something like Snow Crash, or you were a movie watcher and, you know, you grew up on, like, yeah, Akira and, you know, a bunch of these sort of takes on what future could look like from a retro perspective. And Blade Runner is always sort of one of the most visceral ones, right? It really set the tone for what we think of as a cyberpunk aesthetic, and what a future would look like on a really crowded Earth where population growth has continued, where Asian culture and influence has a wider sort of extension, where the dominance of sort of overseas manufacturing of technology takes over our perception of what a household appliance or our day-to-day sort of enhancements that are, brought to us by technology looks like. That's always sort of that mix is you've got, Japanese VCRs and holograms existing in the same place, but also everyone's white and has a very sort of Western approach to what is good living. And there's some kind of smash up between these aesthetics. It's fine. I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. Holograms are a big one, and we don't really dive into them too much on this show. We often do kind of try and stick at least adjacent to blockchain. But I was thinking about this a lot while I was looking up stuff to talk about today and kind of punctuate music with. And the idea of holograms, obviously, when you look back at the traditional retro future aesthetic, holograms are almost always these weird, beautiful ads. We have always sort of had the understanding that they would become these cool, fantastic things that could be projected anywhere, any size, any color, any shape, but they would predominantly be used for advertising. It's a very cyberpunk retro future aesthetic that a hologram would show up and it would be amazing because it would be, a beautiful ballet dancer tiptoeing between these buildings. But also, it's a Sanyo ad and the feet are dancing around people who are just trying to get from point A to point B on their daily commute. It's literally, I'm pretty sure, verbatim out of the new Blade Runner. But there are new takes on this as well. And so as we've kind of learned what the retro future was to become, because what we thought things would happen, what did we think 2020 was going to look like in the 80s? Flying cars and, just the whole, we figured we would be in the thick of it. Skynet would either be active and we'll all be crispy corpses, or we would be living in this crazy, beautiful, neon-soaked, tech-centric world where, people are struggling because industrial jobs are gone and advertising is pervasive and it doesn't look quite the way we expected it to. And the new takes on things like holograms have been what? Famous artists on a posthumous musical tour? Yeah, it is bullshit we don't have flying cars. Agreed. Although, you know what? Honestly, maybe it's just because I live in Vancouver. I see what people do in cars on the ground. And I am actually pretty glad that one of them can't just fall on me out of the sky. I have enough to watch out for on my daily commute. Having another vehicle that could potentially just literally land on top of me is, I'm okay that it hasn't happened yet. Also, look at Teslas. We had an entire episode where we talked about the Tesla rock opera about the car that just wants to get revenge on its creator, and also that many of the Teslas have just lit on fire and started driving around neighborhoods on fire like everything's okay by themselves, nobody in them, just a fiery Tesla rocking by your house, doing some donuts in the cul-de-sac. Maybe we're not ready for flying cars. Although, to be fair, there have been some prototypes actually in this last week. I don't know if you've seen these, but flying car prototypes are already happening. And actually, there have been a sort of a resurgence in this. So if you do want to see more flying car news, you will literally be inundated because the Jetson 1 flying car has just been making a bunch of news around the nets in the last couple days. So that's fine. A bunch of these things have actually gotten a bunch of approvals in January. A bunch of flying cars have won airworthy certifications like the Air Car. Long and the short of it is, flying cars are coming sooner than we expected. If you listen to a lot of these people. Maybe not. I don't know. We will find out. But I digress. We could talk more about that in a bit. But uno momento. So where I'm going with this with holograms is what we've seen done with them is a little bit different than what we expected to have done with them, if you guys can think about that, right? Surprisingly enough, we don't have holographic, women walking around slinging Coca-Cola to us. Now, places like Japan, Singapore, really tech-forward hubs in Asia, you will start seeing this type of technology, billboards that are curved or that specifically give the illusion of items like jumping off them, crazy electronic integration in places like subways. Ads are pervasive. That's not the part that's changed, but the idea that this tech would be used in a way to kind of be beautiful for the sake of being beautiful and combine that with ads hasn't happened. If you look at something like, hey, Otto, if you look at something like Black Mirror, that is a great take on what we as a whole right now think in this era. It's different from the retro future, right? And someday there are going to be a bunch of people who look back on things like Black Mirror and are like, oh, that's so quaint. Look at that vision of the future. You know, sure. But one of the things, if you have watched some of the episodes, that you will see that has come up a lot is that holograms, computers, AI, data processing, emulation, all of these things come together to recreate people we've lost and to recreate experiences that make us comfortable. This is an interesting take on things. There is a couple of different Black Mirror episodes that all touch on aspects of this, but one in particular, which was you would allow a neural network to go through the internet information of someone that you've lost. You would give it your personal data, whether that's texts, emails, voice chats, voicemails, any information that you invariably happened to put out there on the internet. And this AI, this generative network, would go through all that and it would recreate a facsimile of your loved one's personality. And then it became really fucking dark because the idea was, well, we just put that into a robot and now it's like your loved one never even died. Wow! Really terrifying. So, yes, you know where I'm going, Sanguine Haze. Absolutely. But I'm gonna pull this up as it is. So this was just released, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, and we'll talk a little bit about this. I will play another track here. But Amazon did a press conference where they were talking about voice captures on an Alexa. Now, you guys know for a fact, because it was hilarious. For a while there, they recorded specialized voice packs with a number of people with obviously very entertaining voices. Like Mr. T, your Amazon Alexa home assistant could be Mr. T. Who wouldn't want that? You want to walk into a room and be like, turn on my lights. And, you know, Mr. T would be like, yeah, because I pity the fool that would stub his toe in the dark. Okay, that's hilarious. I get it. But Amazon just did a press conference saying, well, cool, but now we can just make that voice anyone. And in fact, we can make that voice a deceased person. And so if you want, your Amazon Alexa, your Amazon Home Assistant could be the literal ghost of someone that you miss, and their voice can be with you always in the form of your handy dandy Echo, devices scattered all over your house. Let's have a talk about this. But before we do, let's play another track, because I think today is going to be a desperation drinking day. So let's have a little fun with this. And yes, of course, we can still talk about flying car stuff. We can still talk about fun Hive stuff. And we'll do all the rest of that. Obviously, the crypto market is being as insane as always. And if we want to do that, we can. But to me, this was a place that I wanted to go today because it feels like a natural extension of the conversation that we've been having over the past couple weeks that we've been having a lot of fun with, which is there's some incredible technology. There is some amazing data processing capabilities in these generative adversarial networks. And yeah, Mariano, you're right. I'm not trying to shame someone who literally just wants to hear someone they love's voice one more time. That is not the point of this. Absolutely not. Because you're right. It's absolutely terrifying and also super wholesome at the same time. So let me pick a track here quickly. And then we'll come back and we will kind of jump into the terrifying aspect of these topics, because why not, right? Hi, Kitty Girl. Hi, Patient Zero. It's good to see you. My name is Crimson Clad. Today is CyberBuzz. It's a hot one here in Vancouver. It's probably warm where you are. I hope you have a fabulous Saturday. If you're watching the replay later on somewhere like YouTube, great. Doesn't matter. If you have thoughts on this particular subject, as many of you often do, and you're not here to participate in chat, or you don't want to say anything till later, no problem. Go to the post on the Hive blockchain, leave me a comment, or do it there on the video. Let's just dive right in. But okay, let's find some music for today, and let's have a little bit of fun with it. So I was thinking that it has been a little while since, let's just see here, that I have played something by Kalex. And I saw him recently making some posts, and I was remembering, man, he makes good music. So out of Liverpool and into your ears, I'm going to play you a track called Time Lapse. My name is Crimson Clad, and this is CyberBuzz Radio. Today, we're kind of just chit-chatting about stuff that is an extension of some of the conversations we've been having over the past couple weeks. One of the things that I both admire about humans and despise about humans, and that is that we love to create technology to solve perceived problems. And inevitably, hey, Mr. Dan, inevitably, when we solve those problems, we cause 62 more. It's just how we are. We are constantly trapped in a cycle of trying to fix our continual fuck-ups. It's magical. Necessity is the mother of invention. Time lapse on CyberBuzz Radio. right, there you go. Calyx, a track called Time Lapse. And yeah, why not? It's technically afternoon here. Welcome to CyberBuzz Radio. My name is Crimson Clad. It's a hot, chill day. You know, not a ton of people are hanging out in the Discord, but I do see quite a few of you watching across the different streaming platforms. And of course, some of you will end up watching this later on replay, because why would you be here in person if you have stuff to do on a Saturday? If you don't have stuff to do on a Saturday, then I shall entertain you. But if you do, then you can come back later. So cheers to you, first of all, first and foremost. And where we left off, before we just jumped in and had a quick synth break there, played a couple of tracks already today, and I will play many more. Today is a very sort of music forward day. We're hanging out and rolling with it. And you know, it's hot. We can't be compared to too much. Yeah, complete isolation. Well, that sucks. You're never alone because you're here with the rest of us now. So here's the deal. If you are in isolation, let's get your thoughts on this. So one of the things that we've been talking about a lot the last couple weeks is this generative adversarial network sort of, I want to say it's a trend, but it's not. These are networks that have been very important to big companies for a long time. It's stuff that a lot of work, a lot of research has gone into. But just recently, obviously, they've been kind of released in public consumable versions like DALL-E or Crayon or whatever it's called now, Midjourney, Disco Diffusion, Wombo AI. You know, these are sort of baby's first steps into technology that at higher levels is being developed rapidly and that can do incredible things. The stuff we get are kind of stupid versions of it. But the reality is humans on the internet are constantly being used to train digital behavior. We know that. We know it's happened since way back when we very first started getting Snapchat filters. We knew that was facial recognition. You know, how do you make a filter better? You have to better understand how eyeballs move and mouths move and everything else. Hi! Rashas is here. Hi, welcome. So, the reality is... The reality is we have a lot of different kind of takes on this. But humans now are obviously training DALL-E. They are making sure that it gets the most ridiculous amount of, I don't even know what you want to call it, data. And they're getting the most random forms of data, as seen by Hagrid being a contestant on American Ninja Warrior, or, you know, Larry the Cucumber at D-Day. We know that if you take all of the information on the internet and you feed it into a network, that it will learn an incredible amount, and that humans are so random and so full of potential for more behavioral data. We know the internet is full of everything and anything, from recipes to poetry to, you know, court documents to giant works of fiction. It's all there. So we've obviously been talking a lot about generative adversarial networks. And last week, we kind of jumped into how it is problematic that when we are learning how to generate a face, we are also learning how to make inferences. And we talked a little bit about Clearview AI. We talked a little bit about how to fool something like Clearview AI the week before that. But today, we're jumping into the idea that, yes, there is also other aspects of problem solving that these big machine learning networks are doing. And just before I played that last song, I brought up, hey, Amazon just announced that you can have your Alexa devices, because many of us do, let's face it, lots of people have an Amazon device in their home. An Echo, a Kindle, the Alexa, I don't know, Dot, the Show. There's a bunch of Amazon hardware that has Alexa integrated. If you have a Kindle, Alexa is probably integrated. If you have one of their doorbells, or you have a camera, or let's be realistic, Amazon makes their hardware very, very inexpensive, specifically to bring Alexa into your life. The other reason Amazon makes their hardware very, very inexpensive is to make sure that people have a lot of it. Because we actually talked about, way back when, Amazon Sidewalk, which is a mesh network created by Amazon devices and literally does not need the internet. It's its own internet. It is its own Amazon-centric network created solely by communicating Amazon devices that are in proximity to each other. They don't need the internet to communicate. They literally are their own network. Wild. So Amazon, in a continued form of this kind of stuff, said, hey, for a while there, we were approaching Amazon Alexa voices from a very specific direction. We were saying, we have to have a person, and then we can use that information to recreate their voice and map it on anything. And before, when CrimNet, nobody wants that. No. But so here's the deal. Amazon Alexa, before, you needed to record tons of sound bites, clips, saying weird words, all sorts of things. The problem was, how can we make the most realistic voice? How do we get when? Soon. TM. That is a Hive-centric joke, but nonetheless, when? Soon. You had to record a lot of stuff because, of course, I want, to tell my Mr. T, Amazon Alexa, to buy me pineapples on, Amazon and have it shipped to my front door. Mr. T, maybe in recent memory hasn't shouted about pineapples. Why? I don't know. Just hasn't been a thing. That posed a problem for Amazon. And the idea that, well, as an add-on service, giving you all these voices to your Alexa, we would have to pay people to record. We'd have to take the time. We'd have to figure out what the dialogue works like. So, in order to make this announcement, Amazon had to change the way they solved this problem. And what they did was they said, well, what is something that we've been working on with big generative adversarial networks? And they said, listen, we're getting really good at speech conversion. We're getting very good at understanding what you say. Obviously, Amazon Alexa is always listening for your commands. Amazon Alexa has access to the entire internet. It's constantly listening to you speaking. And often you are speaking to it. It has to understand when you are asking it for something. So instead of approaching the problem of giving voices to Alexa as a, how do we take an existing voice and get enough of it to shape speech? They said, fuck that. We're getting really good at understanding speech. We understand how words are formed by consonants and syllables and enunciation. So if we can understand anything that's being said, if Alexa can understand how to put a sentence together, if Alexa can infer the meaning in something that you're saying and that it is saying back, that's most of the problem. All we have to do is understand what makes someone sound the way we do, and then take that and map it on top. So here's where today's show kind of comes in, is we had a problem, or Amazon had a problem, and said, hey, we want to have a lot of cool voices for you. And also, maybe we want to get into this whole dystopian memory lane, loved one digital memory capsule game. How do we solve that problem? And the answer is, well, hey, shit. We've actually already solved it. So here's the terrifying thing. Right before the break, I was saying, Amazon announced that if you want, you can ask Amazon to make your Alexa sound like a dead person. Would that be of use to you? I literally just lost my grandfather. I'm pretty sure that I would not want him talking out of my Alexa. However, the example that they've given, maybe we kind of understand it. I don't know. So in the press conference that Amazon has just released, and when I say just released, I mean like literally like 2 days ago kind of thing. They basically said, well, imagine for a second if a young grandchild could ask Alexa, oh, Alexa, can grandma finish reading me a story? Oh, I guess so. Man, I mean, yeah. Right? How do you feel about that? I can see on one hand how magical it would be to kind of every day have, when you walk into your house, have a greeting that you just miss hearing so much that's important to you. And to be able to hear it in the voice of someone that you love. Okay, sure. But what are the ethical aspects of that? And more importantly, how terrifying is it that Amazon, Alexa, these adversarial networks have listened to you enough that now they're really confident that with less than 1 minute, a 1 minute soundbite from anyone in the world, they can recreate that voice. And they can make that voice say anything they want. Stop and think about that for a second. Knowing that the internet, are there a couple of places on the internet that might have gigantic databases full of clips of people speaking for roughly 1 minute? Can't think of any, can you? So what do you think? Is this something that you could see being a part of your life? Would you apply the voice of a loved one to your home assistant, whether that's Google or Amazon or whatever? The idea behind it is, now that we understand what makes voices the way they are, would you want to map the voice of not a celebrity, not whatever, would you like to map the voice of a loved one onto a piece of tech that you have integrated into your life? Let me know. I'm curious. Let's keep doing the music thing because we're actually coming up on the halfway point in the show. I want to play you guys some more music if that is okay with you. But I'm genuinely curious. I'm absolutely interested in, do you think that's something that, and it's not a judgment call. There are certainly things and people that I would love, love, love to hear from again. But is that a thing that you could see taking off and being something that you would have in your life? I don't know, man. So while you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to play you something from Grayskull. I'm going to play you a track that I haven't played in a while. It's called When I See Her, I'll Tell Her. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz. Yeah, we're talking about the spooky shit today because, of course, if we're going to talk about networks and what they're doing and all the crazy things that giant information networks and computers and what these deep technologies, machine learning technologies are actually capable of, hell, throw this on the pile. We got an hour to go in CyberBuzz Radio. right, there you go. So, Gray Skull, and that's an awesome album. It's called 80s Kids, which is probably what most of us here are, or beyond, but everybody kind of lived through that idea that this is what future music sounds like. This is what future science fiction looks like. This is a retro future take on things. So, hey, my name's Crimson Clad. Every Saturday, I'm here streaming out on a number of different platforms. Twitch, Theta, Trovo, and of course, Vim TV, the Hive-powered blockchain-centric solution. Yeah, 1988. Oh, you're a baby. Jesus Christ. Good God. But, I mean, no matter what, whether or not you live through the 80s, whether you're older, whether you're younger, solid era for visual impact. We love the 80s. We love the cheerful, bright, poppy, out of control, radical tubular 80s going into 90s, you know, pastel geometric shapes and fucking giant hair and spandex pants. You know, there's that side of the 80s and yeah, arguably into the 90s as well that had a real influence on culture today even. But then there's the other half of the 80s, and that was gritty takes on the future. Well, I don't know if we should thank the gods, but we could definitely shake our fists and be like, Crimson Clad, you made her and she's kind of good and she's also terrible. With every good thing comes bad. And that's what we've been talking about today. So yeah, in the 80s, the other take on things was technology is too powerful. The machines will kill us. We will be the inevitable architects of our own undoing. We're going to live in a popped collar, trench coat, concrete city, and we're all going to go back to being neo-noir detectives, except we'll have laser guns and flying cars. And, you know, we'll be eating takeout Chinese food and, you know, reading some American newspaper, but above us, we'll have consolidated the world's language into one form of hieroglyphics, and they'll all be lit up in neon. It's a very visceral aesthetic, and you still see it today. And of course, then we talked a little bit at the start of the show about new takes on that, what the future now looks like. It's a big topic on this show. We talk specifically about Black Mirror and the dystopian aspect. Bad stuff. And here we are. Amazon, their generative adversarial networks being able to recreate the voice of anyone, anywhere, anytime, saying anything perfectly with less than a minute of information. They hear your voice for less than a minute, and then they apply that to the problem that they didn't realize they were already solving. So we know that when we try to fix little solutions like, oh, well, you know, this filter doesn't stick to people's faces well enough, and that doesn't look good. God damn it. You're also solving the same problem of, well, understanding the position of eyes or lips will help me better understand. If I look at a picture of someone's face, what is their emotion? And if I know their emotion, can I sell something to them? Can I mitigate their behavior? Can I influence them? Do I need to? It is. Yes! GTA Vice City Radio is a great example of retro future. And yes, I'm almost comical enough that I could be a fake DJ in a world that does not exist. But we are talking about this for real. In the future, there will be robots. The robots are here. And of course, we are building them either to serve us or to have sex with us. All of the retro future aesthetic predicted that, right? From movies as silly as Back to the Future, where, you know, everything would be done with little robots for cleanups and things like that. Or from Blade Runner, where, you know, the idea was, sure, holographic sexual companions or bordellos that, you know, are specifically created to be able to change the face of the person that you are going to be interacting with. All of these things have been tackled in a retro future sense, and we're starting to tackle them now with today's aesthetics through, you know, entertainment media like Love, Death, and Robots or Black Mirror are the two big dystopian ones that are a new take on this aesthetic. Same story, same fears. Technology, we solve problems, we learn, we have more problems, and we now have to solve new problems. That's the human condition, and we write about it in our stories, and we frame it in technology. So what we used to think was going to be flying cars and, Harrison Ford and his fucking banana nose chasing robots in the rain, we now think, oh, well, what about that Black Mirror episode where people with dementia are fed their own memories? And so rather than living in constant fear, because dementia does cause fear, what we're doing is we are giving people their lives back truthfully and honestly, knowing that dementia often robs you of your ability to be in the now and keeps you trapped in past memories. What if we could go back and we could get the happiest of those memories? That would be a problem to solve. But also, the ethical nature of that. So we're asking the same questions. The thing is, we're a little bit further along in the journey with the solutions. So here is Amazon saying, well, we used to think we had to record all of the different words because we wanted to give you a fun experience. And then we realized all of the work that we've been doing to solve the problem with how does Amazon Alexa understand you? All of the work that we've been doing about converting speech into text, because that's a big one. How many of you use your phone and realize, okay, well, I'm doing something with this hand, I'm walking the dog, and you know what, I can't type with this one finger, so I'm just going to talk like this, and I'm going to let the text-to-speech get it, and then that way I can just not break in my conversation, and I don't have to pay attention to what's going on the screen, because I'm still in communication, but I don't have to text. So much work. It's silly, but it's the truth. And we're expecting now, same thing. You're making dinner and watching TV, and so you grab your remote and you say, okay, turn on Blade Runner 2049 or 20XD6 or whatever the fuck it is. And you expect that this assistant understands what you say. And in a lot of cases, you ask the assistant, well, shit, this calls for 8 ounces of peanut butter. How much is that in grams? Tell me, Alexa. And you expect Alexa to understand what you asked it. And you expect Alexa to answer you in a way you understand. Amazon has been using neural networks to better identify and synthesize speech. Rather than tackling this from the I need to make it sound better and more like Mr. T aspect, they said, hey, wait a second. We've literally been training AI for years and years and years to truly understand and convert speech. What if we use that? And here we are. Absolutely terrifying. All right. Patient zero. You may have got some wires crossed, eh, bud? So, I don't want to stay on this topic too long, but I think this is very, very interesting. And so there actually was a presentation at Remars about this. And I have the video up, but let me just see if I can go straight to it. Because, of course, one sec. Did I pull it up? Adam Savage was there, obviously. Everybody loves a good Mythbuster. But so at the 102-ish mark, I think it's happening. 1 second. Let's just see if we're there. All right. Human-like empathy. This is scary, but you know what? Heck, we're going to talk about it here. So the guy that's talking is the head scientist of Alexa AI, right? This is that network that you buy all your stuff from, that you upload all your photos into, that you get all your streaming services from. Don't think because you've got multiple channels or Netflix or whatever, it's all served on AWS, Amazon Web Services backbones. Amazon is taking over as the world's information broker. Google used to be that. Amazon, man, they're making a run. Hey, Mr. Tarafda. Good to see you. That's so exciting. Thanks for coming. So I'm going to quickly just play a little tiny itty bitty clip from this, and then I promise we won't do much more after that. But I feel like one of the things that they really touch on, why this is important, is they want empathy in their voices. They want these robot and AI and network and hardware companions in your life to be more relatable. They want them to bring you comfort or happiness or emotion. They want more humanity in the services that they're creating. It's not inherently a bad goal, but the only way to get there is to do an astounding and ethically challenging amount of data analyzing. So here we go. Let's just see if we can get this loud enough.
these attributes have become even more important in these times of the ongoing pandemic, when so many of us have lost someone we love. While AI can't eliminate that pain of loss, it can definitely make their memories last. Let's take a look on one of the new capabilities we are working on, which enables lasting personal relationships.
Alexa, can Grandma finish reading me The Wizard of Oz?
Okay. But how about my courage? Asked the lion anxiously. You have plenty of courage, I am sure, answered Oz. All you need is confidence in yourself.
As you saw in this experience, instead of Alexa's voice reading the book, it's the kid's grandma's voice. This required invention where we had to learn to produce a high-quality voice with less than a minute of recording versus hours of recording in a studio.
Now, we could talk about that all day. We could listen to him talk all day. I will post the link in the chat if you're interested in this. Okay? So we'll leave it. You don't have to listen to all of it now. But it's fascinating because specifically, they are suggesting that a lot of this is, holy shit, all of us are grieving in one way or another. Whether that is because we lost someone in the pandemic or our connections feel strained. And all of that is potentially true. But again, this is wild. Wild. It's a lot. So yeah, let me grab this link. And I will say this is really interesting. So the link I'm going to share here, I'm going to grab for you guys, specifically is tied to that timestamp that we just talked to. So you could jump into that space in the video if you want. But there are some other stuff too. There is the Amazon robotics guy. There is the VP of their retail technology. This guy is the AI scientist, MIT's space exploration, lunar outpost CEO. So there's a lot of cool stuff in this video and at this conference if you're interested in it. But we're not here to break that down today. I did just really want to play that clip for you because it's a lot. Now, Sanguine Hayes is saying, what if, like, eventually we're going to get Alexa doing things like, oh, woo. I guarantee you, if any of you, please tell me, if any of you have an Alexa right now, Alexa, make anime noises. I hope to God that none of you suddenly get, ooh, oh, senpai, I hope that's not what's happening in your house right now. But maybe, I don't know. The worst part is when your grandma ooh-woos at you. Your dead grandma. Oh, no, yikes. Dark. It's fucking dark. So let's play some more music while we're at it, shall we? Let's have a palate cleanser up in this joint. And when we come back, since Gods is here, and, is just discovering Vim TV and some of the stuff around it. That's so exciting. If you have questions about Hive, I would love it. There's a latency in Theta. Oh, well, that sucks. I mean, that happens a lot, I will say. And part of that I know specifically is that I stream at quite a high quality, and looking at you, you're probably watching on the MSP Waves. So that's really cool. I'm stoked to have you there. MSP Waves is also rebroadcasting my stream. So MSP Waves is actually a whole social broadcasting network radio station that came out of the Hive blockchain, and we started creating a place where people who wanted to entertain about any topic, music, talk, whatever, could create community radio and live stream shows. So, yes, there's a delay. I apologize. You have a couple of different options. Twitch, I think, has a smaller delay, but they're Twitch. Twitch kind of sucks. Big old monkey dicks. So you can deal with the delay a little bit, or you can come and hop into the Discord or whatever. You can listen live on mspwaves.com. Whatever makes you happy. But, I'll just... Worst comes to worst, I'll catch you a little late, and then the joke will already be over, and I'll put my foot in my mouth, and it'll be great, and then you'll just get to laugh at me for being pathetic. But so while we're horribly thinking about grandmas ooh-wooing at senpais all around the world, let's find some more music that I want to play for you. I have not played Grafton Primary in a long time, and they do a lot of sort of like dark electro pop. They're not super synthy, but some Some songs are excellent. I'm going to play you a track called Closer. What are we closer to? I don't know. Destruction? Devastation? Anime hentai grannies? I don't know.
Words to be reconciled, moving at the speed of a thought on the wire. We stop time at the funeral pyre. Make the change in the right way this time round. Secrets in the new sound. Music brings us closer. And when it's done, the wave returns and turns. The revolution comes at last, and we're all there in the photograph. Music brings us closer.
All right, there you go. Grafton Primary, not super synthy. Ron has fixed the bot. If you're one of the fabulous people who is watching in Discord, it's very quiet in Discord today. Many people over on the multiple Theta channels, people on Vim, people on Trovo, and of course people hanging out over on the Twitch stream. So wherever you want to be, as I physically beat the shit out of my microphone, that's great. So welcome to CyberBuzz. We're a little bit over halfway through the show. Today's a very radio-centric day. You will notice she's hot in here, kids. It's a hot day. I live in Vancouver, Canada, on the west coast, best coast. We are just finally getting into summer in a heat dome. So it's hot outside. I'm not opening the window in front of me. Let me do that and watch what happens to my light levels. I mean, I'm white, but this is ridiculous. It's really, really bright and beautiful out there. Hey, good to see you, Cider Junkie. So, I'm going to hide in here in the darkness, and we are going to talk about more ridiculous things. Over the past couple weeks, we've kind of been fixated in on the trends that are getting out and about on the internet. And of course, that's generative adversarial networks. And we've talked to death about the pros and the cons and the funny business and the bad stuff and everything. And you guys have made a ton of cool, weird, generated art of me. And we've been laughing over how good it looks and how bad it looks and how close AI can get just based on the name Crimson Clad and the stuff that's out there. And, that's a whole thing. Today, we extended that. Your name is something. Melo das Humanos. Hey, thanks for following. It's cool. Cheers, man. So we kind of extended that today, and we've been talking about an Amazon announcement that was just made. And I did drop the link in the chat, and I'll drop it one more time. Oh, well, cheers. It is definitely warm, sir. Gondor calls for aid. Truth. So we've been talking about and extending this into voice synthesizing. And we've been talking a little bit about how we are using these crazy big networks to crunch data at just an alarming rate. And then, not only are we talking about that data crunching is happening, that collection of data buckets, inferences are being made, and we are learning things about what makes a human from all of the data that's on the internet. Ethically, we have a lot of questions. But what I shared with you is that this week... How do I say your name? Fiveit? I'm stoked to have you either way. Listen, my job is to butcher all of your names. Just gaming and watching. Cheers. Actually, I am going to tomorrow try and have a gaming stream because I want to play a bunch of motherfucking... Okay, Ron, noted. Absolutely. Just call you Five. I like that. Good man. I will do that. I'm going to do some Metal Hellsinger tomorrow because I love rhythm games. I love metal. I think David and his team are amazing. And I kind of just want to get us on a hype train of zombie shooting. But that's tomorrow, not today. So we won't talk about that. While you game, we have been talking about the fact that Amazon is now like, hey, give us less than 1 minute of someone you know talking. And if you do that, we will make Alexa sound like that person. Wow! So, of course, the example that they've been giving out is, what if a dead person that you miss very much, that you had a connection with, what if day to day, to ease some of the pain of missing them, they could read you a story, or maybe gently remind you it's time to get up when your alarm goes off, or maybe, every day when you got up, the first thing you would do is look out the window and then, go talk to your grandparent about the weather. So the next time you ask Alexa, hey, Alexa, do I need an umbrella? Alexa will answer in their voice. I mean, I could see so many connections to the way that humans process memories. We attach sound, we attach smell, we attach taste. Memories are very visceral things. They light up these centers in our brain. And a big part of retrofuture science fiction has always been, how do we create digital solutions that constantly light up those emotional centers in our brain? So when we talk about these networks, when we talk about, voices and appearances and holograms and, all of the sort of science fiction stories that we have out there, they often all kind of touch on this. How do I get my memories back? How do I get a person I've lost back? How do I, get fully immersed in gaming? How do I create a fantasy world because the world I live in isn't enough? Whatever the case may be, it's all the same problem. And we talk about it so much in our stories that sometimes we kind of miss it happening right under our noses. And so, at this Amazon conference, or whatever you want to call it, this RE-Mars, RE-Mars, regarding, it's AI, it's machine learning, it's space exploration. They're talking about a bunch of different topics, but specifically they are talking about, creating empathy and human connection between humans and non-human neural networks. It is crazy. So often we talk about ethics on this show because, let's face it, I got involved in a lot of this stuff. I've always been hugely interested in technology. I've been a fucking nerd my whole life. I love, Blade Runner was formative for me. That was like, yes, that's the future we're headed for. Oh my God. And it created a love of all these sort of dystopian things. Yes, a depth movie, Transcendence, sure, Neuromancer, or, we've explored this topic from so many angles. So yeah, you're totally right. But one of the things that I think kind of comes up here is, even in blockchain, we know, as people who are involved in Hive, and maybe some of you are, maybe some of you aren't, maybe some of you are just discovering it if you're like gods, blockchain is voluntary. And there's something about blockchain that a lot of people kind of lose sight of. And it's not just that blockchain is forever. It is, arguably, as long as people are running the software to validate the ledger, then blockchain is forever. But no one can put something into the blockchain on your behalf. The idea is you hold keys, you hold an identity, you hold a wallet. The transactions you make, because you have your keys, are guaranteed to be you for as long as you hold your keys. What that means is blockchain ethics starts coming down to, well, you are voluntarily putting information into an open ledger. What does that mean for people who want to retrieve it, analyze it, use it to create inferences, train AI? This is what the entire internet is. Your old MySpace page and your private Instagram and, your public Twitter feed that is you taking your cat on a leash, walking them down to the Starbucks. All of that is fair game. And you voluntarily put it there. Now, the thing about Web 2 and non-sort of blockchain or decentralized solutions is there are often terms of service, and often businesses like Facebook or Twitter or whomever say, hey, we're totally not going to share your information. And almost 1,000% of the time, they absolutely do regardless. But when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to Hive, when it comes to other things, you're the only one who has control whether or not something that you put in the blockchain gets there. Imagine for a second that you create a little voice chat, maybe explaining Hive. It's something I do a lot, talking about how the technology works, what's upcoming, stuff like that. What if I recorded just a little 1-minute video talking about Hive, and then somebody decided to use one of those things? Oh, you've been here for a year. Well, that's exciting. Never mind. I'm preaching to the choir, but Vim is great. So here's the reality. What if I've got hours and hours of CyberBuzz streams, of Full Force Radio streams. I've done AMAs with exchanges on behalf of Hive. I do meetings all the time. And, there are a number of different formats of my voice out there, and a lot more than a minute. What if somebody wanted to take one of those and then create an Alexa that would read a prompt in my voice? We are entering a time where we are already so unsure of what's real that these solutions for empathy and human connection and making your Alexa not sound like whatever, now there are more questions. There are more questions that get raised by this. How long does it go from wholesome grandma reads me a story to I'm not wholesome and I am going to get your grandma through Alexa to call me daddy tonight? Wow! That is a slippery slope. And you know what? It should probably be allowed. But what do we do about it? We want this empathy. We want this connection. We want this humanity. Are we ready for all the fucked up stuff that comes with it? So Sanguine Haze was saying earlier, well, okay, we're working on generating faces. We're working on understanding facial expressions, deep fakes now, where you can take someone's face and, map it, move it, understand where their mouth is, understand how it smiles and how it frowns and what eyeballs do and how your nostrils flare with different emotions. Wombo and these fun, cute apps are already incredibly good. Now imagine what the real big daddy behind the scenes versions of these software can do. And you're starting to get to the point where not only can you just manipulate footage of someone that already exists, we are getting to the point where you can ask for and generate anything at all. And it looks perfect, and it sounds perfect, and it's based on absolutely nothing that happened. Before it could be like, well, Crimson Clad said something like, I sure do love knitting tea cozies for homeless people. And I hope that they enjoy that experience. And you could cut that down to, I enjoy knitting, but changing the words a bit to, I enjoy kicking homeless people. Love that experience. That's how it used to be. You had to have something and manipulate it. The frontier that we are approaching is, what if you already have everything? What if every business, every technology, every blockchain, every app, everything, every person has the potential for everything? It's not multiverses, it's technology. Artists who need to create something on a deadline can maybe use AI to generate a starter image and then can zhuzh it up. Or people trying to write a blog because they're on a deadline fucking panic and give it a prompt and say, okay, write me a post about 40,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but also Darwinism, and then clean it up. Like, we're at the point where anything is possible, and as such, we will never know what's real. Are we ready for that? I don't know. It's a good question. All right, so we are coming up on like half an hour left in the show. Today is a music heavy one because people are just hanging out today, just kicking it around. So I've really just been enjoying putting fun music in your guys' ears, and we're just kind of celebrating synthwave at the Mo, and we'll keep going from there. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that I want to play for you guys, and man, oh man, I haven't gone through all of it yet, but there's new Dimmy K, there's new Voyager, there's new Dance with the Dead, I don't know, there's so much stuff that I could play with you guys, so I'm going to figure out what I'm going to play next, and then anything that you guys want, open topic today. I was going to talk a little bit about Hive stuff, but I think I'm going to put that off just for a bit, because we'll probably start doing some really heavy Hive-centric shows in the coming weeks. So, it's open to what you guys want to chat about. I promise we will not talk too much more about commandeering your dead grandma and forcibly digitally putting her into a hentai. But I'm just saying, like, please be aware, it's probably already happening. You need to take the good with the bad. I'm not here to coddle you. All right, it's been a long time. Let's see. I'm going to try and play something that it's been a while. And I'm trying to decide what that's going to look like. So I am going to play you a track by Vogel. I haven't played Vogel in a dog's age. Do people still say that? Doesn't matter. I'm going to play you a track called A Hologram 2, since we've specifically started the show talking about how we thought that the world that we inhabit now would be full of holograms. We thought they'd be everywhere. Our ads, our interactions with kiosks. We figured that by now, every person in a menial job would be replaced with a hologram, and every advertisement would be a 3D, somebody getting right in our face, and hasn't quite happened, but maybe it's coming. Maybe we just needed to be able to generate faces and voices on the fly. Yikes. Heck yes, there you go. Vogel. That's actually off an album called Hologram, and it's a gooder. Highly, highly recommending. Highly recommending. So we are hopping back into chat, and I can see God's left quite a comment. Didn't realize it earlier, but was reading a post just before the stream on how the general design of things now has a very less creative and artistic aspect to them and more a minimalistic design. Yeah, and urban cities looking similar. So one of the topics that we get on a lot on this show, and part of it is I'm an aesthetic person. Not that I personally am aesthetic. This is not a fish, but that I relate very strongly to design principles. And in my life, that plays into all aspects of who I am. You know, my spaces around me, I think a lot about how they are visually sort of created. I work in the design field. I'm a web designer, a graphic designer. I create print materials. I do 3D renders, you know, all sorts of things like inside of my life, outside of my life, in my professional life, in my contract jobs, you know, very much I think that the artistic and visual aspects of something are incredibly important. Design is important. And, you know, one of my favorite topics that we often hit on this show is that retro future design is incredibly different than what I would consider present future design. Present future design was heavily influenced by the rise of Apple. We've talked about how all of our science fiction shows and everything now, it's very, very sparse, it's stark, it's white, it's gleaming, it's shiny. And so, you know, we've talked about the differences in our attitudes about what the future is going to look like and why has that changed? What does that look like and why is it different? And so I suppose it's honestly very much the same when we think about what we expected networks to do, computers to do, AI, what we expected artificial intelligence to look like from a retro future sense, 80s and 90s, to what we are actually pursuing now that it is potentially possible, right? You know, we figured that the aesthetics of holograms would be used, you know, there are so many versions of this, whether it is something like Fifth Element or Blade Runner or any number of retro future animations. The idea that you will be walking in a dark, crowded, close city and that everything will be a little bit bleak, but these spots of bright, incredible beauty in your life will be projected onto you. Fish swimming through the air or whatever the case may be. These holograms that literally make your life more exciting. And yes, they probably will be trying to sell you something, but this beautiful, creative, exciting idea versus what we're actually getting, you know, the closest things we have to a lot of these ideas where, you know, I'm going to take some kind of magical machine and project a face over my own and look at me, I can look like anything now. You know, sure, we do that, but it's from our smartphones and it's an Instagram filter and we actually basically just use it to make our chin look a little thinner and to put fake eyelashes on the majority of the time. You know, the direction that we went in was not what we expected. And minimalism doesn't super surprise me, all considered. You know, and this is a personal take and not where we're going today, so I'll stop after this. But I kind of look at these retro future versions of technology and the complexity and the creativity and the artistic fashion of it. And it was because we didn't know how they worked. We just assumed that they would. They'd be perfect. They'd be simple. And all of our focus then was, what do they look like? What's the design of them? How do we interact with them? Because we didn't really understand the guts. We just knew we'll have holograms, we'll have AI, we'll have robots, we'll have flying cars. We don't care about how we actually got to that technology. We just gonna guess at what it looks like because it doesn't exist yet. Now, as we are in a tech-forward era, we do understand the transition between, you know, a giant ass rotary phone to a smaller flip phone to a small brick to chipsets getting smaller. We have a way better understanding on the whole as people what it takes to make technology work. We just do, right? We've grown up with some of this technology and therefore we understand it a bit better. We know It's logical. The easiest and best thing we can do to advance something is to make it simpler and work a little bit easier and have a little bit less fucking doohickeys on them. And that's really shaped our environment. We know how hard it is in a hectic life to have a clean, sterile environment in a world where there's so many people. So yes, that's going to be our ideal aesthetic. We know that we are losing green space. And we did a couple of shows on this where I talked a little bit about gardening as being this incredible anchoring device for our visions of the future, past and, present. Talking about how a lot of science fiction design actually has nature and the idea of the garden being central to what we think every future will look like. When we go to space, regardless of not we find a planet that has an incredible forest on it, we're going to try and recreate it. It's what we know here on Earth. We're going to pick up that little plant and that seed and take it with us because our connection to nature is really important. It's a fascinating topic, and if you hadn't guessed, I could literally talk about it forever. But you know what's not very entertaining? That. So, I will say, in the coming weeks, we are moving into the summer period. It's going to be hotter. You're going to have a lot going on. I am going to try and keep moving us in a direction where I'm playing more music because this is still partially a radio show. I will be touching on a lot of topics. I have noticed a lot of people are sending me messages now with like, hey, how come you've never talked about, hey, I saw this. Hey, what do you think about that? So I'm trying to kind of tackle a lot of those topics as time goes on. The other thing that people have been sending me messages about are, holy shit, crypto's dead. And yes, sometimes we talk about that on this show. But I will say, I think that crypto has died at least 600 times now. And that Bitcoin especially has been buried and keeps crawling back like a zombie. So, this too shall pass. If you think crypto is dying, then maybe that is just a greater sense of the world is changing around you. Do you think it's truly dying, or do you think we're really just in an epoch? Do you think this is the TSN turning point, to borrow a phrase? Maybe so. With that, let's do a little bit more music, right? Let's do some more music. This is a synthwave show. We're enjoying the synths. I hope you are having a cool day. You're just jamming out wherever it is that you are. And I really didn't pick a playlist today. So I've just been kind of grabbing stuff that I know that I like and sharing it with you. Yes, eat, synth, sleep, repeat. Voguing. Yeah, I agree. But voguing, if I was a robot or a hologram, or I don't know, I looked like the pink-skinned, blue-haired girl from the new Blade Runner. Hey, good to see you. So yeah, 28 days later, maybe not enough. Maybe we need 280 days. Maybe so. Maybe so. I don't have a lot of good answers for you. I am always thinking about the zombie apocalypse. We actually talked about this on Full Force Radio a little bit. It's one of those things where that's another future that we are terrified of and fascinated by, and it kind of really took a hold of us for a while. For a while there, everything was cyberpunk, Blade Runner, retro future, Ready Player One aesthetic, and that was fine. That was everything. We loved it. We couldn't get enough of it, especially how it fucked up our lives. Then the zombies came, and for a while, every future was full of zombies. The planet is destroyed, humans are on the run, zombies are everywhere, they're even on the bottom of the ocean. I do think about the zombie one a lot, largely because I always think about whether or not I have the skill set to survive. Retro future, I will be good. I will be fine. I've got it. But actual post-apocalyptic Mad Max, Road Runner, Road Warrior, Road Runner, future, that would be more challenging. I think I'm up for it. I think I'd be okay with it. I don't want zombies, but I'm I could probably handle a zombie or two. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's being very full of myself. All right, let's keep on keeping on. Let's find some more music. Let's do this thing. What have I not played in a while that I think people really like? I'm gonna play you a track by Tiasu, and I've talked about a book that I really enjoy on the show before, but every time I read this word, it makes me think of a book. David Brin is a science fiction author, and he wrote a book called Earth. And in that book, they discover a super itty-bitty baby tiny anomaly black hole. And they realize that that black hole, when they find it, when the science finally discovers what this weird anomaly in Earth's orbit is, they realize it's a black hole. The black hole is growing. It's going to consume the planet. What do we do? And there's a quote in that book that says, well, as we all know, an orbit is just a plummet that keeps missing. And much ado about nothing. But the reason that that quote sticks with me is like, there's another total perfect encapsulation of the human experience. We are constantly plummeting. We are constantly falling. We have no fucking idea what we are doing. We are over and over and over again tumbling towards whatever is next. And in the process, we often do get caught in an orbit, don't we? We do the same things over and over and over again. And we're often out of control, but locked in a cycle. And every time I hear the word plummet, I think about that book. It's dry, but it's a good book. It's a good track. CyberBuzz Radio. Listen, nobody ever said this stream was good, but I will at least dump all of what's in here out on you, and then you can sift through and find the stuff that you like best. Maybe it's just the synthwave. There you go. So an artist called Tiasu. The track is called Plummet. And so, yeah, we are coming up towards the end of the show. There's about 15 minutes left in CyberBuzz. My name is Crimson Clad, and today we've been having like a lot of synthwave day and just kind of some, I was going to say like light, easy chat, but I don't know that it's been that. We've been talking a little bit about the continuation of sort of generative adversarial networks, big AI, deep machine learning networks, and, you know, their sort of trickle release and presentation to the general population. And so over the past couple weeks, we've been talking about text to image generation, text to text extrapolation generation. And today we would talk a little bit about Amazon's announcement in that your Alexa will be able to speak in the voice of your loved one using absolutely nothing but less than 1 minute of hearing them speak. Terrifying. So we've been talking a little bit about that today, and that's fine. But if you'll notice, the title of today's show is about solving problems with technology and then creating new ones. And that's the idea here, is the way they were initially approaching the problem of what kind of voice do we give Alexa was leading them down a totally different path. And they realized, hey, we've already solved a number of problems with starting to understand speech, converting speech, all of this work that our network's been doing to help understand text to speech, to help extrapolate speech. Well, shit, we can use this. A very happy weekend to you. We can use this stuff to also create voices for Alexa. Boom! Solved a problem. The problem that's being created is, boy, we already really fucking struggle at understanding what's real or not. Do you think ethically, and, you know, even not ethically, do you think it's a good idea to have a machine that can make anything sound like anyone saying anything from any time easily? Seems like a bit of a problem to me. So yes, before the break, I was just mentioning, completely unrelated, a book called Earth by David Brin. And I will say that was one of these first takes on, we're going to solve some problems with technology and inadvertently cause more new problems. That's the story of human life and the story of every science fiction novel. So to sort of expand on it, because PZ asked, did I like it? Yeah, I love it. It's a great book. It's a tougher read. It's pretty verbose, and the scale of everything that it talks about is huge. But the general idea is scientists think, boy, think of all the energy we could harness and the stuff we could do if we could just have a baby black hole and we could have it contained. If we contained a black hole, we could have, you know, never-ending clean energy. We could solve energy needs. We could create potentially safe disposal sites. A number of things we could do if we could just make a small, manageable black hole and keep it in a cage. This is also a very human thing, isn't it? Let's just make small, manageable robots, and we'll just keep them in servitude. Oh, you know, I'm not suggesting, we'll just have a small, manageable prison planet, and we will just keep them there on their planet, and the rest of us will totally be fine out here in the universe. You know what I mean? This is a science fiction trope. It's a human trope. But the idea was, yeah, well, we'll just make a baby black hole. No big deal. And they do, and they contain it, and they're like, cool, neat. And on the other side of the planet, some scientists are like, hey, our orbit's fucked. What's going on? Earth's doing weird stuff. And so it turns out that one of these little baby black holes happens to get loose. And it doesn't just get loose, it drops into the Earth's core. And it begins consuming the Earth from the inside out. And the whole book is basically, other scientists discover the anomalies in Earth's orbit and then discover where it's coming from. The scientists who create the baby black hole are like, didn't see that coming. And the entire book becomes about, how do we feel about our mortality? Do we believe that the science that we practice is safe? And in the case of this book, there's a lot of struggling between one faction of people who are like, yep, let's fix this. Let's save the planet. We got less than a month. Let's fucking do it. And the rest of the people who are like, ooh, we deserve this. Maybe we should just let everyone die. Big science fiction questions, right? Things that we see over and over again. Are we worth saving every time we put ourselves in peril? That's a fantasy trope. It's a science fiction trope. It is a human experience trope. So here we are on the cusp of dead grandma Alexa, of dead grandma performing in your favorite hentai Alexa. And we're asking ourselves, is this world worth saving? Should we continue down this road with the technology? Or is the very first time you hear your great Aunt Mildred go, ooh, do we just burn it down? I believe there's good in this. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it, but, you know, ooh, woo. Just so many ooh woos today. All right. Shit. I hope you guys have had a lot of fun. I hope you've been enjoying the chatter. We are now officially 10 minutes from the break of the show. So we have to play a track. We do. And you know what? I haven't played Scandroid in a long time. And Scandroid is some super fun, very much high, sort of like high tech, high science fiction versions of the retro future. So I feel like we should totally play like a very classic Scandroid track because it's the perfect kind of fit in here. And there's so many remixes of it. But I want to play I want to play Neo Tokyo. It's a fantastic, yeah, he's a great artist and he's got a number of different sort of projects under his label, but you know, he's Clinton, but he's also Scandroid. And so as Scandroid, he has a song called Neo Tokyo. And it specifically is about existing in a world where you are digitally connected with everyone and everything around you. It's a great track. I always play the Dance with the Dead remix because I'm a huge Dance with the Dead fan. But I'm going to play the original here. And actually, Perturbator has a Neo Tokyo track. Everybody's got one. But I'm going to play you Neo Tokyo by Scandroid. It'll be the last track of the day. I'll be back to say goodbye. I hope you're having an awesome time here on CyberBuzz Radio. Don't go ask your Alexa about this. Just percolate on it for a bit.
glistens off the streets. Rainfall washes away the memories in binary. Salvation bathes us in its glow. We look up to the sky and dream of Neo Tokyo. Let go, take flight. Dreams begin to reignite. So clear, so bright, we're glowing in the dead of night. Plug in, online, the data stream linking our minds. Circuits entwined, dream of Neo Tokyo tonight. Dream of Neo Tokyo tonight.
Well, heck, there you go. And big bonus, because of course this track has a killer visualizer, right? So if you look over, God, I'm so bad at this. If you look over there, there. If you look over there, if you're just listening, no problem. But this has this really super cool visualizer of Clinton with his cool pink mohawk riding like a jet-powered Neo Tokyo light cycle, flying motorcycles. So there you go. We have now officially reached the end of the show, but never you fret, children, because of course we'll be back here again, not too long in the not too distant future. So all good in the hood, no problem. I'm glad you're all here. I hope you have been very entertained today. And, it is what it is. So here we are. We are at the very end of the show. The next time I will be live for you will be on Thursday night for Full Force Radio. And there is an excellent chance that could be a Canada Day episode, because Thursday night, Friday morning will be Canada Day. It's a holiday here. I love putting Canadian metal in your ears. My name's Crimson Clad. I sometimes play games, but mostly I have scheduled live streams. They are centered around technology and fun and discussing some of these sort of aesthetics and philosophy behind all of my favorite things. Saturdays, that is blockchain and the retro future. And on Thursdays, that's heavy metal. I like all of these things, and I enjoy entertaining you. So if you want to come back for those, A++. If you want to find out about more people on MSP Waves, you can go to mspwaves.com, find your new favorite DJ. I don't fucking know. Join our community. Be cool. Shoot me a message. See you next time. Bye.